now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caligera, and it's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're listening, whenever you're watching, and I hope you're doing okay. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant, located on beautiful St. Simons Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simons for an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by our new 24-hour, 7-day-a-week television channel. That's right. You can check out all of our previously aired shows like this one and all of the specials we've done over 15 years. I'm talking ringside interviews. I'm talking special shows we've done, the Boxing Revisited, all of that stuff. Sign up today. It's for free. It's on Hulu and all the major streaming services. Just go to Ginico USA, GINIKO USA.com, and sign up and see all of the networks it's on. And finally, today's show is brought to us in part by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Men on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold, and you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. Just go to barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting Tom Molyneux's story told. And by the way, if you're looking to get a signed copy, just drop me an email and I'll give you some instructions, or just go to the website, BillyCBoxing.com. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about the fight results from yesterday. Kubrat Pulev, his victory, his knockout victory. But first, let's kick off the show with, in my opinion, one of the biggest news announcements of the month. I guess of the year in the heavyweight division. I don't know, man. Deontay Wilder reportedly has turned down $100 million to remain under the contract of Al Heyman / Showtime / Lou DiBella. Here's the deal. From what we understand, and we talked a little about this last week, from what we understand, the bottom line was Deontay Wilder was offered a 3-fight deal to work with Eddie Hearn and DAZN streaming service, and it was set up something like this. His first fight would have been middle of this year, 2019, to fight his mandatory, Dominic Breazeale, and he would get paid $20 million, 20. The second fight would be at the end of this year, and he would be fighting Anthony Joshua, and he would be guaranteed a purse of $40 million, plus he would get other cuts of pay-per-view, or I guess that would be on DAZN, but he would get other cuts. It would be a minimum of $40 million, and he would get some other money. And then the third fight would be a rematch, whether he won, lost, or had a draw with Anthony Joshua in the second fight, which again would be worth $40 million plus. So you're looking at $100 million guaranteed, and he turned it down. And what he did was, he was saying about, we heard him talking, we got the big announcement. He had to do a press conference to announce a press conference, which took place this past Tuesday. And the announcement was that he was fighting Dominic Breazeale, something that we knew what was happening all along. But I guess the bigger part of the announcement was that he decided to stay with Showtime in his current management. And as a matter of fact, Not only is he sticking with Showtime, but the fight that was announced, which is scheduled for May 18th in Brooklyn between Brazil, will be on Showtime, regular Showtime. That's not a pay-per-view or anything like that, just regular old Showtime. So I don't know what to say. To be honest with you, the first thing I'm going to say is that I admire Deontay Wilder's loyalty. It's apparent here because the brain part of it and the financial part of it make no sense. The only logical thought process I can come up with to justify what Deontay Wilder continues to do, turning down these guaranteed money, and the issue here is even going all the way back to when he now, and I was critical then when he turned down $15 million. I guess he was smart in that respect because he's making way more. But the thing is even if he took that, he would still have made more money with that one fight than he would have to this day with the big fights that he's already had. So if you look at it from that respect, but the only logical thought process that I could figure out that he is thinking here, or his team, is that the eventual fight between Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, in Team Wilder's mind, and they're probably right, that it's a $100 million fight. Now, when I say $100 million, I'm not so sure that Deontay Wilder will get $100 million to fight Anthony Joshua. I don't see it. I think if he had beaten Tyson Fury, maybe. If he takes the Tyson Fury fight next, because incidentally, Tyson Fury announced yesterday that he will be fighting Tom Schwartz. So here we have Tyson Fury fighting Tom Schwartz, Deontay Wilder fighting Dominic Breazeale, Anthony Joshua fighting Jarrell Big Baby Miller. And, when the smoke clears, and assuming all three of these guys get their W's, what's the biggest fight? Well, I think the biggest fight is Anthony Joshua against either one. And there lies my whole point. Deontay Wilder is banking on the fact that he is going to make $100 million to fight Anthony Joshua. And I think that there's more risk on the road to that fight for Deontay Wilder than there is for Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua could fight a mandatory in Kubrat Pulev. You think he's really going to have any trouble with Pulev? I mean, come on. No disrespect to Pulev, but he's not going to be much trouble for Anthony Joshua. Tyson Fury, is he going to have much trouble with Tom Schwartz? Hey, it looks good because Tom Schwartz is a young, undefeated fighter who's got knockout power. But Deontay Wilder has more knockout power than Tom Schwartz will ever have, and Tyson Fury went 12 rounds with him. So I think Team Fury is thinking, hey, I'm going to cash in. I'll get my big check for fighting my first fight, not only on the ESPN network, but in Las Vegas, in the United States, in Las Vegas. So Tyson Fury, again, makes out better than Deontay Wilder. AJ makes out better than Deontay Wilder. And by the way, both of these fighters are fighting in the United States. Anthony Joshua actually fighting in New York, where Deontay Wilder fights frequently. Again, I think Deontay Wilder is making a foolish business decision. Forget about who's fighting who. They're all going to have to fight each other at some point. I mean, rest assured, it's going to happen. Anyway, I think Deontay Wilder is continuing to make a mistake. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as the show goes on. We got Dax Khan joining us. I don't know what's going on with Sal. He was scheduled to join us. And I haven't been able to grab him yet, but who knows? Maybe he's oversleeping today. But just to fill you in on that, we got Deontay Wilder against Brazil. Will be on regular Showtime, not pay-per-view. Tyson Fury fighting Tom Schwartz. That's taking place in June. And, of course, Anthony Joshua taking on Jarrell Big Baby Miller, which, truthfully, I think, in all honesty, I think the toughest fight here is going to be Deontay Wilder against Dominic Brazil. I got news for you. I really do. I mean, he's the toughest. That's the toughest matchup. I wouldn't underestimate Brazil. Just so you know, in the heavyweight division, Dominic Brazil is taking on Tyson Fury. Dominic Brazil is currently rated. Dominic Brazil is taking on Deontay Wilder. He's currently rated number 9 in the world by the computer. So you got Deontay Wilder, who's ranked number 2, taking on the number 9 fighter. Ironically enough, the number 1 fighter, Anthony Joshua, he's taking on the number 6 rated fighter by the computer, Jarrell Miller, which I disagree. I actually think that Dominic Brazil is extremely better than Jarrell Miller. And then Tyson Fury taking on Tom Schwartz. Tyson Fury is the number 3 fighter taking on the number 12 ranked fighter by the computer. So all generally taken on around the same level of opposition here. So strangely enough, it seems like it's kind of evening out a little bit. But the truth of the matter is, I'm shocked to see that Deontay Wilder turned down the $100 million deal. He still would have been able to fight Dominic Brazil. See, that's the whole point. Deontay Wilder, he gets $100 million guaranteed, and he still fights Dominic Brazil, but he gets the two $40 million fights against Anthony Joshua. My question is, even against Tyson Fury, where would that fight be that would generate Deontay Wilder $40 million? They did 300,000 buys. Now, granted, the rematch would do better. But the powers that be at Showtime obviously know that Deontay Wilder is not the draw without a big name like Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua's. Therefore, they're putting it on regular Showtime. They're trying to sell it to the Joe Q public as this is Deontay Wilder giving back to the fans. Make no mistake, Deontay Wilder's trying to make as much money as he can. The unfortunate part is he's not following the money trail. The money trail takes him away from his current management, and he's being loyal. So I do give him credit for that. Let's jump into the fight results from last night and a couple from the previous. Kubrat Pulev, despite a nasty cut, knocked out his opponent, Pulev-Dinu, in the 7th round last night, 2 minutes and 40 seconds of the 7th round to be exact. Pulev, no disrespect to Pulev, okay? But, I had the luxury of watching him live ringside in his fight with Derek Rossi in Denmark. And although I've always been a fan of Derek Rossi, the man, Derek Rossi had him in all kinds of trouble. And, I got to meet Pulev. I stood next to him. I talked through an interpreter to him. He was in the same hotel as myself. The bottom line is I just wasn't impressed with him. There was nothing about his persona, meeting him in person, because he does look kind of mean on television. But he's not as big as he looks in the ring as he is in person, and I'm not a big guy. And Derek Rossi had him in all kinds of trouble. I didn't think he was anything then, and I don't think he's improved much now. His only loss, he improved to 27-1 last night, but his only loss was at the hands of Vladimir Klitschko. And I've always said that if Vladimir Klitschko fought his whole career the way he fought Kubrat Pulev and Anthony Joshua, for that matter, Vladimir Klitschko would be regarded as one of the greatest heavyweights, if he's not already, but he would have been regarded as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. He certainly would have had more, he would have been given more credit earlier on. He fought an aggressive attack style in this fight against Pulev and knocked him out. But Pulev has continued to win since then. He is ranked at number 1 in the IBF and is the mandatory challenger for Anthony Joshua for the IBF. When that fight happens, who knows? But the truth of the matter is Kubrat Pulev does not stand a chance with Anthony Joshua. He doesn't stand a chance with Tyson Fury. And quite honestly, he does have a chance with Deontay Wilder only, and I say this only because he does have a decent jab and he does attack, which any fighter that does that to Deontay Wilder has a chance of winning. However, Deontay Wilder's power, all he's got to do is connect one with Pulev, and Pulev's going to sleep. So, Pulev, to be a world champion, he's going to have to fight somebody other than those top 3 guys in order to do that, in my opinion, anyway. But it did show some heart on Pulev's part with the cut. The cut was a extremely serious cut, so I do give him credit when all's said and done. On the co-main event, Jesse Magdaleno improved to 26-1 with 18 of his wins coming by knockout when he won the unanimous decision over Rico Ramos, who drops to 30-6 with 14 knockouts. 99-91, 98-92, 97-93. To suggest 97-93 is even far-fetched. I don't think Rico Ramos won one single round. To give him an okay, give him a close round at 99-91, I'm okay with. Either way, it was a dominating performance by Jesse Magdaleno. He came out in the first round and rocked Rico Ramos and set the pace for the entire fight. Jesse Magdaleno is a young fighter who got stopped in his last prior fight, and I think that he learned a lot from that loss. But Rico Ramos, how many chances does this cat get? Rico Ramos has been in the mix, and every time he has stepped up, he has seemingly got knocked down. I don't understand how many chances he can get. I really don't think that I think we saw the best we're ever going to see of Rico Ramos. So, in any event, 2 other fights I wanted to mention on that card. In the junior welterweight division, Maxim Dadashev, Mad Max, if you will, improved to 13-0 when he scored a 4th-round knockout over Ricky Cismidio, who drops to 35-13-3. Cismidio is a tough guy, but if you didn't see this knockout, go check it out. Devastating knockout by Dadashev. And this guy, I want to see more of him. He fights out of Oxnard, California, but I want to see more of him on the big stage. He's an exciting fighter. He's ranked in the top 10 by a couple of the sanctioning bodies. It would be nice to see him continue stepping up his level of opposition. He's only got 13 pro fights, but his win last night over Cismidio is an impressive one, especially in the way he did it. Also on that card, Tervel Pulev improved to 13-0 with 11 knockouts. He's the younger brother of Kubrat Pulev. He too fights in the heavyweight division, and he won a unanimous decision over Mitch Williams, who drops to 16-8-3 with 11 of his wins coming by way of knockout. Also, I wanted to mention yesterday in the heavyweight division, undefeated young rising heavyweight Nathan Gorman improved to 16-0 with 11 knockouts when he scored a unanimous decision over Kevin Johnson. Kevin Johnson, now 39 years old, dropped to 34 wins, 13 losses, and a draw. This guy is a guy that fights to go the distance, Kevin Johnson. And I think he's a good test for a young fighter. He did go to the distance. He causes fights to be boring and uneventful like he did against Gorman. But I think that Gorman, although Kevin Johnson was actually a last minute sub, I'm sorry, and even though he's 39 years old, he's a rugged guy. He goes rounds. He frustrates his opponents, and I think that by fighting him, a young fighter gets to see number one how well they fare against Kevin Johnson. A goal could always be to stop him, but I think they learn a lot. Kevin Johnson knows how to slow things down. He knows how to force fighters to fight at his pace, his style, and I think it gives a young fighter, even in a victory, like Nate Gorman did yesterday, even in a victory, I think it gives him something to go back to with his team and work on getting around some of the things that he was not able to do because of the defensive prowess of a guy like Kevin Johnson. So, yeah, maybe he was frustrated in the ring. Maybe it was an uneventful fight. But I'm telling you, a fight like that helps a young fighter. Maybe not in his next fight, but he's learned something from that he's going to be able to work on. So the next time a fighter tries to do that is when you'll see what he learned from that fight, because they're going to work on that. I'm telling you right now, they're going to work on that. Anyway, also on that card, in the junior welterweight division, Sam Maxwell improved to a 11-0 with 9 knockouts when he knocked out Sabri Sidiri in the 10th round. Sidiri had dropped Maxwell a couple of times in the fight, and also had him hurt several other times, but started taking the win for granted and was messing around in the final round, and Maxwell caught him and knocked him out. 2 minutes and 46 seconds gave Sam Maxwell the clearly come from behind victory, and Sidiri drops to 10 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. I've seen this before several times where fighters are goofing off, and next thing you know, they lose the fight. I'll never forget watching a fight. I forget who it was. It wasn't Saddam Ali, but it was another fighter. I think his name was Ali, but anyway, not the great Ali, but and he's in a fight on ESPN, and he's just dominating the fight, and his corner's going, you know what, we need to get some rounds in, work on this, work on that, and before you know it, boom, same thing happened. A lucky punch lands, knocks him out, and never won the fight. Was never the same fighter after that. So, if you could take your opponent out quickly, just get it over with. It's your team's job to get you another level fighter to continue learning and improving on. Don't mess around. That's all I'm saying. But in any event, also on that card in the cruiserweight division, a guy that I always like to watch. I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead of myself. In another fight that was on the Gorman-Johnson card, CJ Challenger improved to 10-0 with 2 knockouts when he beat Kyle Haywood over 10 rounds, 97-95 of the way that was scored. One thing I love about these Brits, they put the guys in against each other early on. I mean, CJ Challenger was 9-0 going into this fight. Kyle Haywood was 8-0 with a draw going into this fight. That's the way you do it. Over on Friday, the fight I was just going to mention, Lawrence Oakley improved to 12-0 with 9 knockouts when he stopped Wadi Camacho in the 4th round. This is a cruiserweight division. I love Oakley. I wish more fighters fought like he did at so early on, like he does, I should say. Cruiserweight division. He's an exciting cat, and I just wish we had more cruiserweights that were willing to fight here in the States. The main event in that card, Charlie Edwards improved to 15-1 with 6 knockouts when he retained his WBC flyweight title against Angel Moreno, who dropped to 19-3-2. 120 to 107 was the way all 3 judges scored that one. Joshua Butisa improved to 10-0 with 8 knockouts when he claimed the vacant British title with a 3rd-round knockout over Liam Conroy, who drops to 16-4. And Louis Riston took a unanimous decision over Argentino Benitez, who drops to 21-4. Maybe it is Jermaine Argentino Benitez, or it could be the German now. And in the super flyweight division, Andrew Maloney improved to 19-0 when he stopped Miguel Gonzalez at 2 minutes and 50 seconds of the 8th round in their elimination title fight on Friday. So that's what took place over the weekend. And, getting back to the whole situation with the heavyweight division and Deontay Wilder, I am going to discuss this with Dax and Alex as we come up. Sal was scheduled to come on the show today. I'm not sure what happened with him. He's obviously having some glitches with his system. Hopefully that's what it is. But in case you're tuning in late, Deontay Wilder turns down a $100 million 3-fight deal to fight Dominic Breazeale on Showtime. The $100 million deal consisted of 3 fights. It was put to him he would be working as a, co-promoter deal with Eddie Hearn, and DAZN would broadcast 3 fights. First fight against his mandatory Dominic Breazeale, where he would make $20 million, more than he's ever made in any fight, more than he's probably made combined in his career so far. I would challenge that. I bet he hasn't made $20 million yet. And the second fight would have been guaranteed $40 million, plus he gets other cuts of other parts of the event to fight Anthony Joshua. And then he gets a guaranteed rematch for another $40 million plus deal with Anthony Joshua. 3-fight deal worth guaranteed $100 million. Deontay Wilder turns it down. In the meantime, Tyson Fury announces his next fight, which is going to be against Tom Schwartz out of Germany, undefeated up-and-coming heavyweight. And, of course, we know that Anthony Joshua is fighting Jarrell Big Baby Miller in Brooklyn. So we got the 3 headed top heavyweights all fighting other fighters instead of fighting each other. So in any event, that's that. So, hey, listen, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, we're scheduled to have Dax Khan join us. We'll get his thoughts. So don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money.
It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604. Listen to
you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And speaking of being with us, joining us right now is my man Dax Khan. Good morning, Dax.
Good morning, Billy C.
How you doing today, my man?
I haven't been outside yet. You know, I'll know with the weather. Every day just is a mystery.
Well, it's getting close. It's getting close to being decent again in this neck of the woods. But first and foremost, before we get going, I wanted to get your thoughts on what has happened with Deontay Wilder and, of course, Tyson Fury. The announcement that we all knew, and the announcement that that Deontay Wilder announced that we all knew. Deontay Wilder seemingly turned down a $100 million deal with Hearn / DAZN, basically a 3-fight deal. First fight against his mandatory Dominic Breazeale, where he'd be guaranteed $20 million, and then 2 fights guaranteed $40 million apiece against Anthony Joshua, whether he won, lost, or drew. In the first fight, he would get a rematch. He announces that he's taking on Breazeale. He's staying with his team. He's fighting on Showtime, not pay-per-view, on Showtime. What's he doing? I mean, the only thing I can think of is that he's holding out for a $100 million purse against Anthony Joshua. What's your thoughts on this chain of events?
That sounds logical. That is, he's holding out, figuring, I'm going to get the one mega payday. But as I've stated several times, all of them, not only just Deontay Wilder, but Anthony Joshua, both, they're chancing this really huge fight, because we know in boxing that just one loss changes the whole dynamics of everything in the fans' eyes. And either one of those guys take a loss, whether or not Anthony Joshua was upset by Jarrell Miller, or let's say Dominic Breazeale upsets Deontay Wilder. I'm not, predicting either one of those to happen. But, if it does, all of a sudden the whole dynamics of it change. Tyson Fury, him and Deontay Wilder, the rematch, that would have been sensational. But Tyson Fury, again, another guy, is taking chances against the young Tom Schwartz, who most likely Tyson Fury is going to outbox. He's bigger, he's more experienced, but anything can happen. And then, meanwhile, in the background, you have Dillian White, who's starting to really make noise, and he wants to exercise his right as the #1 challenger for Deontay Wilder's title. And then recently, what happened is the stewards, from the BBBFC, they had just stated that next month, that on April 10th, Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce, they're going to purse bid for that vacant title. And either one of those guys, another 2 or 3 fights, if they should face Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder or even Tyson Fury, they have a high chance of upsetting the apple cart. There are a lot of guys out there that are very capable of upsetting any one of those guys on any given day. So, make these fights now. Make it for the fans. Make it for yourselves, because somebody's going to be disappointed in the end. And Deontay Wilder is most likely going to be that guy that's disappointed, because no matter what happens, unless he takes his deal, he's going to have to fight more fights to even get anywhere near close to $100 million. He's going to have to at least fight 5 fights.
The whole point is that, and exactly how you mentioned it, Anthony Joshua has all these other options. Because the heavyweight division is the way it is, in England, Dillian White, like you mentioned, and some of the other young fighters, I mean, these guys are fighting each other, which is a draw in itself, gaining recognition, and then it's always a big money fight for Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua doesn't have to fight Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua may be worth a lot of money, but at the end of the day, Deontay Wilder's the guy really with the least amount of options. Dominic Breazeale, out of the 3 fights, and I mentioned it, that actually they're all, pretty by the numbers. You got Anthony Joshua fighting number 6, Anthony Joshua being number 1. The computer says that Miller's number 6. Deontay Wilder fighting Dominic Breazeale. Computer says Wilder's number 2. The computer says he's number 9. And then Tyson Fury, number 3, taking on the computer ranked number 12. So they are fighting, respectful opponents rankings-wise. But after Dominic Breazeale, I think, to tell you the truth, I think Dominic Breazeale is the toughest fight for Deontay Wilder out of all 3 of those fights. What's your thoughts on that?
Out of all things, no, no, I don't think so at all. I think Dominic Breazeale is tailor-made for Deontay Wilder. He tries to lay on the ropes. He's tough, but he doesn't have a solid chin. He gets lazy with his jab, so he's tailor-made for Deontay Wilder. I don't think that's going to be a very tough fight for him at all. I think Jarrell Miller may be a little bit tougher for Anthony Joshua than a lot of people predict. I think Anthony Joshua is going to win, but Jarrell Miller, because he is so big, and he has that low center of gravity. So long as he's able to deal with Anthony Joshua's power, he can bring Anthony Joshua in there late, and anything can happen while late. And again, I stress, Dillian White is sitting in the background, and he's just getting better. In my opinion, he's actually pretty much fought the best competition out of the other 2 guys, or including Tyson Fury in the last year or so. Robert Helenius, Lucas Brown, Joseph Parker, and the rematch with Derek Chisora, and he gets better in each one of those fights.
Yeah, no, listen, Dillian White is one of the guys that is avoided. You don't see any really of the top 3 heavyweights going after him. I just want to say Dominic Breazeale has a solid chin. I think that's going to help him against Wilder. But Wilder has a freakish knockout power.
It didn't help him against Anthony Joshua. And just to interject, Bill, I really cannot sit there every week and agree with you on, yes, Deontay Wilder has the least amount of options, but, this fight is just as much Anthony Joshua's fault as it is Deontay Wilder's for it not happening. Money aside, it's just as much Anthony Joshua's, if not more, Anthony Joshua's fault than Deontay Wilder, considering Anthony Joshua, as Eddie Hearn stated just a week or 2 ago, I work for Anthony Joshua. So Anthony Joshua, he's in the driver's seat. He can choose to fight Deontay Wilder. And, any obstacle in the way, Anthony Joshua can make this fight. He's choosing not to. Why is that?
Because you're wrong. Because the bottom line is it boils down to be the money. Anthony Joshua will fight, but how? It's not up to Anthony Joshua to make the money materialize. You can't say and Anthony Joshua's team. If let's say the magic number for Deontay Wilder was $100 million, if Eddie Hearn decided to write a check for $100 million to pay Deontay Wilder, now all of a sudden what's he going to do with AJ? Pay him $100 million. Now you got a $200 million fight. Is it a $200 million fight?
I think it's a $200 million fight if these guys don't suffer a loss or either one of them don't really look poor in a performance against one of these other guys while they're waiting. Again, even with wins, the worse of a performance that they put on in these fights, the more that fight declines in value. True. And that's just a public perception. I'm not saying that's not great, but that's the era we live in.
Oh, no. You're right. Any one of those guys lose, and there's a lot of money being flushed down the toilet. There's no question about it. But in any event, I just whatever the case is, if I'm at the end of the day, it's a business decision, and if it boils down to money, again, it just appears to me that both Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, for that matter, have seemingly secured financial and decent fights, whereas Deontay Wilder is still just, a mouthpiece, and I'm not so sure the money has really ended up in his pocket the way the other two guys are making. And he's fighting just as hard fights. That's my point. Deontay, you could say what you want about Wilder, but his last 3 fights were all against really good opposition. Luis Ortiz, Tyson Fury, and now his fight with Brazil. So
like I say, Deontay Wilder, he's ever since the Luis Ortiz fight, I think the questions have been answered. The biggest doubt on Deontay Wilder was the chin. I think that was answered.
Oh no! The chin was answered in the Ortiz fight. I think that the issue that Deontay Wilder, what makes him the guy that's not number one. Yes, he's got the knockout punch. I think probably a stronger punch than all of the other heavyweights. The problem with Deontay is that he really doesn't have any skill. He doesn't have footwork. He doesn't have defense. He relies on his power, and so far it's worked for him. And he may never have to rely on another thing. Only time will tell. But
this is true.
But let's talk about Pulev. We have to. His fight last night, to be honest with you, Dax, I'm not impressed with Pulev. He looked good last night. It was impressive to see that, he has heart. The cut was savage. He comes back and he wins by knockout. What's your assessment of Pulev? Does Pulev have a chance with any of those top 3 heavyweights?
I don't think so. If you asked me this a couple years ago, I'd say yes, but he's 37? He's almost 38 years old. Last night, Dinu should have really been a showcase fight for him, considering how easily Jarrell Miller dealt with him. It was a better fight than I thought it was going to be. It helped the division, considering that we had that cut. We thought that maybe Pulev was going to be upset, and then he finishes that round strong, and then he drops Dinu. And, we have to give credit to Dinu there. When he was down, it's not like Raul Kaiz was quiet in stating, okay, if he can't continue on, we're going to have to go to the scorecards. They even hinted towards a disqualification. But Dinu got up and he went out on his shield. So we have to give credit to him. And guys like that, or like a Schwartz, Pulev and a Dinu, those guys really, honestly, they're the ones that are going to sell these bigger fights, like the Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder, or the Deontay Wilder against Tyson Fury rematch, or whoever you want to put into that mix, because those are the guys that are on TV that are really making that division exciting, and they're the ones that are drawing in, keeping the fans interested, while the rest of these guys deal with their political back and forths on who's getting what check, who's going where, who's fighting, and which location, and so on and so forth. So you really have to appreciate these lower level guys more.
There was also a fight yesterday that I was impressed with, even though it wasn't an impressive fight. And that was the Nathan Gorman against Kevin Johnson fight. Kevin Johnson was a last-minute sub. I don't know if you got a chance to see that one or not, Dax, but Nate Gorman is another one of these unbeaten heavyweights that has a lot of fanfare around him. And although the fight was kind of boring, I was saying earlier that I thought that Kevin Johnson has become this fighter that if I have a young heavyweight, I want to get him in the ring with Kevin Johnson to see what he can learn from Johnson. Johnson has a tendency to make the fight his style, a boring, he's going to make it to the end, to the final bell type of a fight. That's his goal. If he makes it to the final bell, he doesn't care about the L on his record. Did you get a chance to see this fight?
I did watch it on the DVR. I was out last night. Kevin Johnson is kind of the heavyweight version of Darnell Boone, just a lot less dangerous in terms of punching power, where you want to put your guys in there against him because he's going to, as you stated, he's going to create them into better fighters, and he's going to make them go the distance, and he's going to give your team everything you need to go work on inside that gym afterwards. Remember, Kevin Johnson went the distance with Vitaly Klitschko. Even though that was, quite a while back, it still says something. As you stated, the guy goes the distance, and anything that you should be doubting in your fighter or you want to know about your fighter, Kevin Johnson's going to answer that. And unlike Darnell Boone, there's not that high chance that Kevin Johnson's going to go in there and knock your guy out. Darnell Boone, remember, when he was around, he was the boogeyman.
Right. No, hey, listen. I think there was a time, and I'm almost embarrassed to admit this, but there was a time that I thought Kevin Johnson was the best heavyweight in the division, long before he lost his. Well, come on, you can roll your eyes all you want, but go back. He's 39 now. Go back 10 years. This guy, when he was undefeated, up until the Klitschko fight, he was pretty good. He just turned into, he talked a lot of smack for the Klitschko fight, and that's what turned me off. Because you remember all the smack he talked. Remember he was comparing himself with Muhammad Ali. You remember, right? You remember all of that, don't you?
I remember all that, but I'm sitting there saying to myself, Bill, what point in time could you have thought Kevin Johnson was? I mean, whether you... and that goes for anybody, whether you're a fan of the guys or you're not. At no point in time did I ever question who the kings of that division were. If it wasn't Vladimir, it was Vitaly.
But at that time, we were all looking.
That time you were drinking heavily.
No, listen. At that time, we were all wondering who was going to be able to challenge them. And up comes a young Kevin Johnson, and he did appear to have the tools until he finally stepped in the ring, and then the rest is history. But. Hey, one other question I want to ask you is, what did you think about this guy, Mad Max Dadashov? He looks like a fighter I want to see more of. How come we haven't? He's fighting out of Oxnard now. How come we haven't seen more of him?
I've seen him fight a few times. I forget what card he was on last year, undercard of one of the bigger events. I think it was a pay-per-view. I can't remember off the top of my head which one it is. He's an exciting fighter. He's certainly got power. I'd like to see how he does in that next level up, of course, but he's definitely one of them guys that if you have a card with a major fight on there and the rest of the card is kind of subpar, that's the guy that you want to have out there, to kind of usher in that, the main event, and keep the fans, interested and make guys say, if the rest of the card stunk, at least Dadashov, his knockout was worth it.
Right, he was some excitement for sure yesterday, and I'd like to see him step up. I think the fight yesterday was one of those types of fights that indicate that they are stepping him up, because he was in there with a veteran guy. So I thought that was at least encouraging. Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about? I know you went to that card. I didn't know if you wanted to bring that up or what.
Oh yeah, just got to give credit here, and amateur boxing. We're always wondering what's going on with amateur boxing. We've been talking for years about how it's a shame how many gyms have closed and how big of a part boxing was in communities, not whether guys were turning pro, but when it came to young fighters going to these gyms, finding something to do to keep themselves active out of the streets, and how law enforcement was involved. Last night at the Civic Center, I attended one of the semifinals for the Road to the Garden. That's the event by USA Metro where everybody wants to fight at Madison Square Garden, and then the winners there, they go on to the Nationals with the Floyd Patterson Boxing Club and the DC 1013 Foundation, which is the foundation for police officers who are retired. They came upon hard times. They did an event over at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center. You had the county sheriff, Adrian Anderson there, Sonia Lamanakis, who did a great job coordinating the event. You had Tracy Patterson was there. You had Coach Anthony there. They had some congressmen there, and there was, they had a pretty good set of raffles there. They had an Ernie Shavers autographed glove. They actually autographed one of Floyd Patterson's boxing robes off. And all the kids there, they put on quite a quality event. And coming on the 27th, Bill, one of our favorite people, Billy Costello, they're actually having an event in Kingston called the Billy Costello International Box Offs. So, around here in this area, amateur boxing's starting to really pick up, and we have to give that credit to not only the Floyd Patterson Boxing Club, but Newburgh Hook Elite with Leonard Lee. And these guys, they're doing their best to kind of, step up boxing, not only in this area, but upstate to what it used to be. Boxing in New York wasn't just always big in New York, in New York City, in the 5 boroughs, but it was, big throughout the whole state. And right now it's really picking up. And in my opinion, with law enforcement being involved again, it's kind of going to help recreate those relationships that law enforcement used to have with our youth, where kids kind of felt safe going there, talking to these officers. And it wasn't so much of a everybody looking at each other the wrong way out of the side of the, out of the side of their eye. It's really helping build communities, and that's what what's going on here. And we have to give credit to these gyms. And remember, as we always say, these young kids that are in there doing that, then eventually they're going to be the future of our sport, and they're the guys to look out for. And they're always the guys that we like to sit back and say, I remember watching that kid in the gym 10 years ago.
Anybody that caught your eye last night?
Caught my eye last night. Everybody did a great job, Bill. I can't say anybody, even the winners and losers, everybody did a great job. Nobody was extra standout. Everybody just did a great job, and I know that kind of sounds generic, but there wasn't anybody out there that you can actually say this kid didn't belong. Everybody, fought their heart out, and almost all the fights except for one were by split decision.
And how was the crowd?
The card, it was a good card. Again, this is the Road to the Garden. It's a weekly series, not a weekly. It's an event. Every event, somebody gets eliminated, and the big prize is to fight at Madison Square Garden. You remember years ago, that was the big goal, fight at Madison Square Garden. Everybody wanted those little golden gloves that went around your neck, and this is how you get there inside these tournaments. But these tournaments now are throughout the whole state, where boxing was dead for a long time.
No, how was there a decent-sized crowd?
There was a pretty good crowd. Like I said, you had congressmen there, you had the sheriffs there, you had tables there, you had some pretty good-looking ring card girls, and you had a lot of community support. So with all these incorporated in there, that's a positive outlook for amateur boxing.
Oh, if I would have known about the ring card girls, I would have been there. Dax, why don't you fill me in on this? I didn't see any emails come across mentioning that to me.
I more or less, to be honest, I found out by accident myself. I knew about the tournament, but I found out about the location by accident, and I'm really excited about the Billy Costello Invitational Box Offs next month.
Yeah, that'll be good. My man Billy Costello, I miss him. But Dax, great job as usual, and we'll be looking forward to you next weekend, my man.
All right, everybody, enjoy your Sunday.
That's Dax Khan. You can check him out up on BillyCBoxing.com, where he carries the weight of the site. Yeah, he does. Hey, listen, I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, Alex Propely will join us. Don't go nowheres.
Billy C will be right back.
Have osteoarthritis in one or both knees? If you have osteoarthritis in one or both knees, are you on Medicare, Obamacare, or other health insurance? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knees, covered by Medicare at little to absolutely no cost to you. We also offer a prescription strength topical pain relief ointment that can be used for pain experienced on other areas of your body. Our experienced staff will work with your doctor and handle all of your Medicare or insurance paperwork. Best of all, your prescription is shipped directly to your home for free. Will you qualify for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knee, or for a topical pain relief ointment covered by Medicare or private insurance at little or no cost to you?
Find out for free by calling the Back and Knee Pain Center at 1-800-604-1072. That's 1-800-604-1072, 1-800-604-1072.
Medical alarms for people who fall or have medical emergencies. You never think you'll need one until you do. Hi, I'm Lonnie Anderson for Advantage Alert. Today, our advanced systems locate and protect people inside and outside their homes, plus when they're on the road, allowing users with the press of a button to speak with an operator who can summon help. And even after 30 years, Advantage Alert's products remain amazingly affordable.
Call 800-985-1705.
Addiction is an epidemic in America. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, you need to call the R360 Network now.
I'm Ken Seeley, author, addiction recovery specialist, and former addict. R360 is a nationwide network of addiction recovery specialists that I personally selected and recommend.
The call is free, the consultation is free. If you have private insurance, your treatment could be covered with no out-of-pocket cost.
Call 800-705-0023.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man. www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell them Billy C sent ya.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the #1 show in the country, talking boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And speaking of being with us, joining us right now, right this very minute, is my man, Alex Propely. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. First question, same one I've been asking all morning, so I'm sure I'm not going to blindside you on this. What's your thoughts of Deontay Wilder turning down the $100 million 3-fight deal? Pretty much he stays loyal, which I respect. He was going to fight Dominic Breazeale anyway, but rather than take a $20 million guaranteed purse, which would culminate into two $40+ million back-to-back fights with Anthony Joshua, he chose to stay put and claim that everyone has to come to him because he is the heavyweight division, and he's fighting Dominic Breazeale in New York on Showtime, not even a pay-per-view. What's your thoughts?
I'm disappointed because, it's another obstacle to us getting the fights we really want to see. But, I mean, I guess, I can understand the motivation. You want to get the most money you can, and he figures he could get more. But I don't know. It's a bummer for the fans, and I think we're really in it's amazing because December was such a great month for the heavyweight division. Last year was such a great year for the heavyweight division. And then to have the Fury-Wilder fight, first end the way it did with a decision that I thought was very highly questionable. And then, to not get a rematch, and now to have to see every one of these monstrous heavyweights have to fight somebody else to sort of fight a placeholder. I can't believe that I'm most excited, like Dax mentioned, for Joshua versus Big Baby Miller. I think that's the best matchup of them. It's unfortunate, but it's not too surprising to see that it's gone that way, especially because of they're all with separate platforms. So, it's going to be a sort of promotional pissing contest, I guess, for a while. So it's a bummer. And the other thing I think that's a bummer is that he's fighting Dominic Brazil instead of Luis Ortiz. What happened to that fight?
Well, first and foremost, the Luis Ortiz fight was one that I thought for sure was going to be announced, because I thought that was the announcement, because Ortiz had won, I think, 3 fights since his loss to Wilder. And I think that would have made more sense. It would have given Deontay Wilder a better opportunity at bigger money. But when you look at the heavyweight division, there are a lot of really good names in the heavyweight division that are still in the conversation. Dax mentions Dillian White. Dax has been talking about Dillian White for a while. A guy that's 25-1. You can't write off Povetkin yet. I know he's an older fighter, but he's still a piece of the heavyweight division at 34-2. Luis Ortiz, same thing, only lost once, and that was against Wilder. You got young fighters like Oscar Rivas and Tom Schwartz, former champion like Joseph Parker, other young fighters like Hrvatic and Otto Wallen and Joe Joyce and Nate Gorman. I mean, there are a lot of good heavyweights in there. My point is that the money stance for Deontay Wilder, for Deontay Wilder. It's always like I always have to think before I talk about those top 3, because they're like every discussion has one of their names in it. But Deontay Wilder might be outpricing himself. That's my concern, Alex, because it seems to me the only thing I can think of turning down $100 million for a 3-fight deal is somewhere along the line. Deontay Wilder feels that he is worth $100 million by himself to fight Anthony Joshua, and I can't help but revert back to the last time those kinds of numbers were thrown around, and that, of course, was the Floyd Mayweather against Manny Pacquiao fight. Do you think that the anticlimactic way that fight ended, leading up to the fight, and I'm talking about Pacquiao-Mayweather, do you think that fight has scarred the boxing public enough where it would be like, no way will a fight ever be worth in excess of $100 million per fighter again? Do you think that Deontay Wilder can maintain wanting to fight for that kind of money or close to it with his options currently in the heavyweight division?
Yes, I do think so. I think the thing that's different here is that we're talking about heavyweights. We're talking about guys, especially with Wilder, who can put you to sleep with one single blow. And, any fight that has Floyd Mayweather in it is not going to generate that same kind of intrigue with the casuals, the people I can't stand. People like Deontay Wilder. He puts people to sleep, and I think that even if a lot of people watch him because they want to see him lose. So even though he's not a household name, I do think the fans of the sport will come out to see him. So I don't think he's necessarily wrong in holding out for that money. I think it is unfortunate. I mean, that's what a fighter wants to do, right? You want to get the most bang. You want to get the most buck for the least bang, if you will. And I think that's what these guys are doing. with their choice of opponents. Although, like you said, Tom Schwartz, he's an up-and-coming guy. The heavyweight division is not terrible right now. I mean, I think it's very exciting with the three top guys. I think like you mentioned, there are some other guys that are interesting. We did have in December, we had another really good fight with Dillian White and Derek Chisora. Dillian White hasn't fought since then, and I think part of it, he's probably waiting. He was probably hoping to get a shot at one of these other three guys, the top three, the Fury, Wilder, and Joshua trio. I think last night we had an entertaining fight. So there's fights, I mean, in terms of fights being entertaining, there are entertaining fights to see in the heavyweight division, if they keep not fighting each other. But it's not what we want to see. We want to see Wilder Joshua or Wilder Fury 2 or Fury Joshua. To me, that's the one that I'm looking forward to the most. Is Fury Joshua. That fight's going to be enormous. That fight, they could make $100 million each easy. I don't know if Wilder will, but I don't think he's necessarily wrong to have dreams like Floyd Mayweather dreams in his head, because this is the heavyweight division and all off. And remember the numbers that Holyfield and Tyson did. These guys aren't names like that yet, but they are on the way up, and I don't think it's unheard of for them to make coin like that.
Well, the part that I'm looking at is this. Yes, and you make a great point. They're not the names of a Tyson Holyfield, but do they have enough time to develop the name and the value? And here's my point. Taking Tyson Fury out of the mix, let's talk about just Wilder and Anthony Joshua. The last three fights, if I recall correctly, or the last two plus the upcoming third fight for Deontay was Ortiz, Fury, and Brazil. That's correct, right? There wasn't another fight in between, was there? I don't think so.
No.
And with Anthony Joshua, it was Joseph Parker, Alexander Povetkin, and his next fight with Miller. Okay, so all the rumors that came around for Deontay Wilder, what he made for the Ortiz fight, I'm going to say, let's say he made $4 million. I know it wasn't 4. It was I think around 3, but let's say 4. And let's say for the Fury fight, the numbers never really came out. I heard rumor as high as 6, but let's, for argument's sake, say that Deontay made $10 million for that fight. And for Brazil, on regular Showtime, against a mandatory, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's going to make 5. So over these 3 fights, there's $20 million maximum that Deontay Wilder has made. And oh, by the way, we know that the Ortiz and the Fury fights were good fights. They were not easy wins for Deontay Wilder. When you look at Anthony Joshua, he made $32 million for Joseph Parker. He made $35 million for Alexander Povetkin. I don't know what his exact numbers are for Miller yet, but I know he's guaranteed 30. So when you add that up, it's $100 million in 3 fights. All his fights are difficult because he is susceptible to getting caught. But in a nutshell, I don't think he had or will have as a difficult time as Deontay Wilder does. So with that in mind, my whole moral of this story is 3 fights, $100 million, and Anthony Joshua presumably can continue fighting whoever for $30 million a pop. Deontay Wilder doesn't have those options. I know I sound redundant. I keep saying that. But he's got Tyson Fury and Ortiz. Is Tyson Fury or Ortiz, or let me say this, will Ortiz generate Deontay Wilder $30 million? Maybe Tyson Fury could, but will Ortiz? My point is that, to me, I think Deontay Wilder is making a mistake. I think that for him to hold out for $100 million, the only way he could get himself worth $100 million to fight Anthony Joshua is if he indeed beat Luis Ortiz and Tyson Fury, each of them again, to lead up to a fight with Anthony Joshua. And that risk, Alex, is where I would draw the line if I'm Team Wilder. I think a risk, even though Ortiz might be 60 years old, and even though Tyson Fury we know can be stopped, they're still risky fights for a guy like Deontay Wilder. I think he's rolling the dice. I think there's a good chance that Deontay Wilder loses value before he's worth $100 million. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. I mean, with a heavyweight division, that's certainly possible. You're right. I mean, any one of these guys, they're not pushovers, and Deontay Wilder has shown that he has lapses, in his focus, in his sort of orthodoxy in the ring. He's very wild at times, like his name says, that maybe somebody could exploit. But at the same time, I think he keeps winning, and he delivers in terms of knockouts. Has he, are his eyes a little bigger than his stomach in terms of paychecks? I think you're probably right. But that's the nature of these guys. At least, some of these, I hate to say it, but some of the PBC type fighters we have seen that, they might value themselves a little higher than the sport does. I'm not sure that, I think the sky's the limit in terms of how much these heavyweights could make against each other, especially if he went to England to fight Joshua. But I don't know. I mean, I think in terms of making a deal, I don't see him fighting a Joshua or a Fury in a multi-fight deal. That's going to be a one-fight deal. So that could have been, like a one-fight deal and a rematch. So maybe that was part of it, that he didn't want to sign into a contract. I really don't know. But I do think that, you're right. There is risk here by them not fighting, making the big fights first.
How about this? How about this part? How about the fact that Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua are both fighting in the United States? And as a matter of fact, Anthony Joshua is fighting in New York. Same thing as Wilder. So what implications will that have?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that shows that, and again, but see, that's the nature of our world today, is you could get an army of Twitter warriors to make it sound like Deontay Wilder is the take no prisoners guy, the tough guy, the I'll fight you anywhere type guy, even though he's never gone to somebody else's backyard, especially somebody else's country. That's just sort of the nature of our world today. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I give both Fury and Joshua more credit for that they see themselves as, not only the ambassador for the sport and are willing to go into other countries, but they're also they're selling a product, so they want to sell it overseas. That's wise. Deontay Wilder doesn't think that way, But this is not new with American stars. Roy Jones was like that. Floyd Mayweather was like that, and now Wilder seems like that. I mean, if you listen to the Wilder interview last week, what was that, on DAZN? I think it was on DAZN. It was on the pay-per-view.
Yeah. He's afraid of DAZN.
That's right. What am I talking about? It was on the pay-per-view. It didn't make sense. He made it sound like Tyson Fury was afraid of him because he might kill him like he killed him last time. Well, I don't know about you, but I watched that last fight, and I didn't see any killings. I saw one guy get badly outboxed. So I don't know. He lives in a lot of distortions. It's unfortunate. I mean, I think we will eventually see the fight. Some of these big fights. I don't know if we'll see all of them, but it really is a disappointment right now that we've got Tom Schwartz, Big Baby Miller, and Dominic Breazeale in the mix here of what is a really exciting heavyweight division where you have three guys that you just want to see fight each other, but they won't.
The funny thing is Tom Schwartz, Dominic Breazeale, and whoever the other one was. Right. Oh yeah. I purposely didn't want to mention his name, but the bottom line is those guys.
Us fat guys got to stay together.
Those guys are not bad heavyweights. I mean, all three of them. Well, I think Miller is bad, but all three of those heavyweights aren't bad, and I give them credit for fighting the guys that they are. But you're right. It's the fact that we want them to fight each other. And then don't forget, we have a wild card in the mix. Vladimir Klitschko has mentioned more times than not that he wants to try it one more time. So then I say to myself, okay, that whoever Vladimir Klitschko fights is going to be a money fight. Klitschko won't get back in the ring for less than $20 million. So if he's going to get a fight, who makes the most sense? What would interest Vladimir Klitschko more than $20 million? A rematch with Tyson Fury, a rematch with Anthony Joshua, both have significance. Both of them would gain and garnish some value there. But an intriguing fight would be Deontay Wilder against Vladimir Klitschko. Could Team Wilder entice Klitschko to fight their guy? And Klitschko, the mental head game here could be, well, I don't want to be just a guy that's the gatekeeper, so to speak, the old washed-up champion fighting the young guy. He's already lost to the other two. Would he want to make it a trifecta? I think Klitschko has a lot of pride. Would he want to do that for the money? Maybe. My question is, does it make sense for him to do that? Would the possibility of gaining the only belt he didn't have with the WBC be a lucrative negotiation point for Klitschko? Should he be discussed in this conversation?
I don't know, because one of the big things about Klitschko, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way, but we've seen through his career that he's very cautious in terms of risk. There's a lot of risk in fighting Deontay Wilder. He can hurt him. And Vladimir Klitschko's old. In terms of, this sport, he's old. In terms of skill, yeah, I think Vladimir Klitschko beats Deontay Wilder, unless he gets caught. And the fact now, he's older with slower reflexes. He's been away from the ring. So, yeah, that's a dangerous fight. I kind of hope Vladimir Klitschko stays retired. But of those three fights, rematches with Fury or Joshua, no, I'd rather see Vladimir Klitschko fight Deontay Wilder. That's the only, of the three, that's the only two, of the three guys, that's the one we haven't seen yet. So, yeah, I'd be interested in it.
No, maybe
it doesn't mean as much because of the layoff, and he's been retired. So,
but as a fan, yeah, you'd want to see that. But as him to motivate, would Klitschko prefer to take a shot at the guy he didn't fight yet, or revenge one of the other two losses? Knowing Klitschko, I would think he would want the motivation. The only motivation against Wilder is that the WBC belt. I mean, that's really he had all the other belts, but I would think that to avenge a loss would be more important to him. And considering Klitschko, got harassed as much as he did with Tyson Fury, I don't know. It almost seems like maybe a Tyson Fury.
Yeah, I think Klitschko himself would want rematches. He'd rather avenge one of those losses. However, we know with this sport, money talks. And remember, Larry Holmes was quite comfortable being retired until Don King came knocking on that door and said, hey, I got an idea of this guy I want you to fight. Oh, Don, I'm retired. Well, I'll give you $3 million to fight him. His name's Mike Tyson. All right, sign me up.
Exactly.
So, it could be that if, I guess it's Shelley Finkel that it does most of the negotiating for Deontay Wilder. So, if they, talked about enough money, maybe it would entice Vladimir Klitschko. But no, I think that would be, I'd rather see him fight Luis Ortiz or Dominic Breazeale in a rematch than Vladimir Klitschko, because I do think that Vladimir Klitschko, at this point, he'd get hurt.
I think that out of the 3 fights that we got coming up with the 3-headed heavyweight division dragon, so to speak, if you want to give anyone other than Anthony Joshua credit, Anthony Joshua against Miller, to me is the easiest fight. I don't see Miller having a chance at all. As far as Tyson Fury against Tom Schwartz, I think Tom Schwartz has a puncher's chance. Tyson Fury's chin has always been suspect, even though it's hard to connect to it. But Tyson Fury's defense against a young, inexperienced fighter like Tom Schwartz is going to make it an ugly but easy win for Tyson Fury. But of the 3, the Dominic Breazeale, he's got a solid chin. He does stand in front of you. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he can connect. He's accurate when he does land. I think that Deontay Wilder is in the most dangerous fight of those 3. What do you think?
See, I kind of agree with Dax more that I think Anthony Joshua has the most dangerous opponent. Gerald Big Baby Miller hasn't lost yet. And I think that the other thing, I like big heavyweights with quick hands. And that's what he is.
But does he have the power?
I don't know, but that's just it, is that especially in the heavyweight division, and I think Fury kind of proved that with Wilder, you don't have to have tremendous power as long as you connect.
Yeah, but wait, Tyson Fury's able to tie his opponents up. Just because Miller can't do that. His physique will prevent him from doing that. He will not be able to tie up Anthony Joshua. Remember, Tyson Fury was so much. Deontay Wilder never fought anybody bigger than him. Tyson Fury was bigger than Deontay Wilder, tied him up. It was there every time Deontay tried to do something. Miller's not going to be able to do that to Anthony Joshua. And you're right. Miller has fast hands. He's undefeated, but let's be real. He's never fought anybody even close to the caliber of Anthony Joshua. And Anthony Joshua, of those 3 fighters, Anthony Joshua's got a pretty solid skill set. I'm not going to say it's better than Tyson Fury's, but he's got a pretty solid skill set. Better than pretty much anyone else in the division but Tyson Fury.
Yeah, I mean, see, I don't know. There was not a lot of clinching in the Deontay Wilder-Tyson Fury fight. I do think
but he tied him up with his hands by jabbing him and keeping him at bay, and
right, and that's what I think that is what, because again, sometimes an offense is a great defense. Big Baby Miller, just by keeping those hands going and being in the face of Anthony Joshua, even if they're not hard punches, he's forcing Joshua to deal with his incoming rather than dealing with his own offense. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but that's the potential he has because he throws so many punches around. He's bold. He's big. He's not afraid to get hit. At least we haven't seen yet. Granted, being hit by Anthony Joshua is going to be a whole different animal than he's ever faced in his entire career. So we don't know what's going to happen. It could be a blowout in that sense.
I know it's going to happen.
I think it's going to be because I do think that I think it'll go a couple rounds. I do see Joshua winning, probably by knockout. But I think that I don't know. I think Fury and Joshua I see as, more of the class in the division than I do see Wilder. Wilder, I see him limited. He has a huge punch, and he's got a lot of heart. He proved that versus Ortiz, and he proved it against Tyson Fury to some degree because, he also came up short in one of the big things is that, he couldn't put him away in that last round. And that's the thing that was so startling with the way he was talking at the pay-per-view was that he was acting as if he knocked him out. I don't know what he was thinking. I saw Tyson Fury get up off the deck and then sting Deontay Wilder. Wilder must have forgot that's how that round ended. So I don't know. I think that it's still a very exciting division. I think we have to sort of hold our nose for a little while, and at least for the through the summer, at least until these guys get rid of these three opponents. Maybe then the next fight. But I don't know. I don't think we're going to see one of those matches we want to see in 2019. Sadly.
Yeah. Well, I don't see Jarrell Miller going past 6. I don't see him hurting Anthony Joshua. I don't see him doing anything except going to sleep in that fight. He's a fraud. He hasn't fought anyone. You can't say how good he is. Not you, but people can't say how good he is based on who he has fought and the type of wins he's gotten to this point. I'm sorry, you can't. As far as those 3 fighters, AJ, Deontay, and Tyson Fury, it's true. They need to fight each other. And I think that the route that they're taking may be the blueprint of marination, the marination process, et cetera, but this division is unlike any other, and any one of these guys, even as much as I'm saying about Miller, Miller could catch Anthony Joshua and rock the table forever, and knock out Anthony Joshua. A guy named Buster Douglas did it once to my man Tyson, so it's all possible. I just think as you look at it, from a X's and O's standpoint, I really think Deontay Wilder is taking a huge risk, and all along I've been critical of his management, and even at times I say to myself, do they know something I don't? Am I missing something here? Am I taking the the bait? What's going on? And I've analyzed it, I've ripped it apart, I've looked at it in every angle, and I just can't see where this is going to be a win-win situation for Deontay Wilder. Every time he goes in that ring, he's risking throwing all that money away. And even against a slow-moving, stand in front of you guy like Dominic Breazeale, the guy's got pop, and he's got hatred towards Wilder. And Wilder is a one-trick pony, and we've seen him get caught by guys like Ortiz and Tyson Fury. A guy like Breazeale catches him, he's got more pop than both Ortiz and Tyson Fury. So I don't know, man. It's intriguing. It is a topic of discussion, though, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think in a sense that is good because it keeps interest in the sport, and sometimes that's a major part of the fun is just imagining. How someone would do against someone else. But the thing about that is you want the payoff. You eventually want to see it. I don't know. And you're right. I think that the whole, the sort of looming, I think a taboo thing for fight fans at least is Mayweather-Pacquiao. That's a fight that they marinated the hell out of, and they forced boxing fans to wait for forever. And when it finally happened, it stunk. So I think that that's a lesson. Now, we think it stunk. Fans, the business end of the sport, they don't think it stunk. They all made money. They liked it. So, yeah, that could be a model for them. That idea of marinating to the powers that be, it's not taboo. They like it because it's kind of like our friggin' presidential elections. It's this long, drawn-out product rollout that they think fans are going to have the appetite for. I'm not sure they're right. I don't know. I think this is a little different because we're not talking about welterweights, especially one like Mayweather, who's not a knockout fighter. When you're talking about guys who can change everything with one shot, yeah, you can add a lot more zeros to the checks, I think. I think that's a safe decision to make.
Yeah, as long as they keep going in the right direction. Alex,
as long as they win.
Yeah. Alex, thanks for giving us your thoughts on that. And we'll look forward to you next week, brother.
All right, Billy C. Take care. Have a good one.
You too, my man. That's Alex Propely giving us his thoughts on the heavyweight picture, and it's a confusing one because it could change at any given moment. So, in any event, I got some emails to read. So let's get started. This first one is from Joel. He says, hey, guys, what do you think of the St. Patrick's Day card at the Hulu Theater last Sunday? I really enjoy these yearly St. Patrick's Day events. Top Rank manages to bring out the stars to pack the venue, and the crowd was into it. It's always exciting. I hope they continue. I hope these continue because it's becoming one of my favorite. You know, to me, it was a club show atmosphere, and the club show atmosphere in the sport of boxing is the backbone of the sport. So I'm glad they did it. He says also, what's your thoughts on the new subscribers for the Zone will now have to pay $20 a month or $100 a year, while existing subscribers will get the $9.99 a month till March, when everyone else will be paying $20 a year. Hey, listen, I don't have a problem with it, and I'll tell you why. They got all the fighters. You know, I told you that that's the way it was going to be. You know, you're going to subscribe based on the fighters. Did you really think that they could keep throwing money at these fighters and signing them up and signing them to multi-fight deals, when guaranteeing $100 million, $300 million deals and so on and so forth, when their revenue model is really solely driven by subscription? It's similar to what the cable companies did. And we saw that they're suffering. HBO's out of the picture, and Showtime is seemingly suffering a little bit right now. So it doesn't surprise me at all. Next one is from my man Mitch. He says this one he did on just the day. He sent this to me earlier in the week, it looks like, because he said, hopefully, as you said it, with the announcement tomorrow, they'll do a deal with Hearn. Obviously, they didn't. He says Canelo didn't leave Oscar to fight under Matchroom. He signed with the Zone and kept his own promoter. The same with Wilder. You're not signing with Matchroom. You're signing with the Zone. Hope he makes the right call here. He says, and I'm going to tell you exactly why he turned down $100 million. He says, if I went to my advisor and asked him why I'm turning down all that money when he's going to be 34 and he didn't have a great reason, I'd fire my advisor. I agree with Mitch. He says, unfortunately, the contract he has, meaning Al, makes it impossible to fire him without sitting out a couple of years like Mikey Garcia did. Al Heyman can't let Wilder go because the memo from Showtime and Fox says you can't let Wilder go. Allen's getting too much money from Showtime and Fox, and the latest deal he signed will not permit Wilder to go. He could lose a Porter or a Lamont Peterson, not a Spence and not Wilder. This is why it spells doom for Fury and AJ. Shame on Finkel and Al Heyman. Let Deontay get a deal where he fights the first two fights, Brazil and AJ, on DAZN, and if there's a rematch with Anthony Joshua, then let's do a Showtime pay-per-view and then call it a day or something along those lines. I like that. He says, but don't leave this dummy hanging, meaning Deontay. You have to adopt to the landscape. He says, if AJ gets $32 million to fight Miller as a minimum, and Fury gets 103 over 5 fights, and Deontay wins, he'd get the same as Fury for 2 fewer fights. He says, I'm sick of it. You said a long time ago that Heyman negotiates the best deals, not for his fighters, but himself. Yep, I did. Thanks for the email. And it's true. If it's all about the money, Deontay Wilder is showing that he's making the wrong decision. 3 fights for $100 million and 2 of them against Anthony Joshua. And by the way, it's 40 guaranteed. So he could make 50, even 60 million, depending upon how that goes. If the second fight was a pay-per-view and wasn't on DAZN, I don't know. You know, maybe DAZN offers if you're not a member, a one-time price for the fight. It boggles my mind. I think that Deontay Wilder's skill set, which he has none, is going to get worse because his power bails him out every time. So, no, I think it's a mistake. Deontay won and could have made everybody like myself look like an idiot, and then he signs the 3-fight deal for $100 million, and he wins. He makes me look like an idiot. But so far, he's holding out, and the fact that he's combined in his whole career hasn't made $20 million yet. Right now, he's not looking too good. This is from my man Gregory. He says, here's what Deontay turned down. WTF? Is this guy nuts? Does he have a plan? And he's sent the attachment of the 3-fight deal, in case you missed it. 3-fight deal offered by DAZN. First fight against Brazil this year, mid-2019. He gets guaranteed $20 million. Second fight late this year against Anthony Joshua, minimum of $40 million. Plus he gets extras and a rematch, win, lose, or draw in the second fight, $40 guaranteed plus extras. I agree with you, Greg. Stupid decision. Got another email. This one's from my man Jonathan. He says, "Hey Billy C, I just want to see an undisputed heavyweight champion, please. I haven't written to you for some time, as I figured the state of the heavyweight division very depressing lately. After this week's events, I felt compelled to get your views on Wilder turning down the offer from DAZN to fight Brazil and 2 fights against AJ. I personally feel that Deontay Wilder's team are protecting him in the same way that Cus D'Amato protected Floyd Patterson from Sonny Liston. Floyd was a middleweight amateur who was maneuvered into contention for the heavyweight championship after Marciano retired. Wilder was a heavyweight, not a super heavyweight, in the amateurs, who was maneuvered into contention after Vertilli retired. Patterson went on to avoid Sonny Liston for 5 years. And the main reason for this, in my opinion, this is Jonathan, was that Cus D'Amato knew that Floyd's chin wasn't the best. I believe that Shelley Finkel knows Wilder has not got a good chin. Before I continue, I will say he did demonstrate a solid chin, or at least a chin that saved him in both the Luis Ortiz and Tyson Fury fight. So I do give him some credit for that. He says, I know you... I should have read this line before I said that. He says, I know you feel that Luis Ortiz checked Wilder, but I personally don't agree with you. Prior to fighting Wilder, Ortiz fought Tony Thompson, Malik Scott, and Dave Allen, and looked thoroughly unimpressive in those fights. He then went on to fight Daniel Martz, a fighter ranked in the top 150. Ortiz's whole reputation is built on knocking out Bryant Jennings. The only thing Jennings has done was go the distance against Vlad, who was content to box a shutout against him. Luis Ortiz has never knocked out a top 10 heavyweight. You know, I will admit to Jonathan that Ortiz isn't exactly a knockout artist. They were trying to build him up to be in his last fight. But he's right. He's got a point there. He says, I'm not going to go make my most controversial statement that I am not convinced about Wilder's power either. The only top 10 heavyweight that Wilder's knocked out is Luis Ortiz, who besides Wilder has never been matched against a puncher. Furthermore, if you look at Wilder's opponents, a large number of them have been knocked out quicker by other fighters, and I have the list for you below. Washington knocked out quicker by Kauznacki. Spiltzker knocked out quicker by Kausnowski. Molina knocked out quicker by Anthony Joshua and Chris Arreola. And Arreola knocked out quicker by Stavern. He says, I can include other fighters, but I just focused on the title defenses. I move now on to the American media, which has reported negotiations between Joshua and Wilder. The American media have reported that Joshua turned down a £50 million offer from Wilder. This is far from factual. When Deontay Wilder sent the email to Eddie Hearn to offer him the $50 million to fight Joshua, Eddie Hearn stated, we are interested. Can we have a contract and a meeting? Wilder's team refused to either send a contract or have a meeting. They have then got on to repeatedly say Joshua ducked him based on sending an email without a contract or a meeting. The view has been propaganded by American media. Now that Wilder has turned down large offers for 2-fight deal with Joshua, this is not being reported as a duck. Can you make sense of this, Billy C? I have put links below to an amateur fight of Deontay Wilder and how bad his chin was then. I've also put a link to AJ Silva medal fight where he gave up 22 pounds to a proven puncher. Joshua is a 21-year-old novice fighting away from home and isn't afraid to challenge himself and has been doing this since he started boxing, something Wilder's never done. And then please ask Dax why this isn't a duck. I believe Wilder would fight Joshua, but it is his team protecting him. Sorry for the rant, but I contacted you as I know you love the sport and try to maintain a balanced view. Well, thank you for the extended email, Jonathan, and I certainly appreciate all of the time and effort you put in. And I don't disagree with you. I honestly believe that Deontay Wilder is clearly a fabrication of a heavyweight. He's got one thing, and that one thing is power. I, too, believe that he clearly is ducking Anthony Joshua. You heard Dax disagree with me again today on that. Feels that Anthony Joshua, well, he didn't say Joshua's ducking Deontay. He said that Joshua's just as much to blame, and he says it's more so Anthony Joshua's fault, which I disagree. I think the heavyweight title, for the most part, if you say the heavyweight world champion, I think you have to refer to that as Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua is the heavyweight champion, in my opinion. I think Deontay Wilder is a title holder, and I believe that Tyson Fury has no title. I can't believe that they're still talking, oh, he's the linear champion. Yeah, okay, everybody's got to have a title to give value. The bottom line is this. Deontay Wilder is fighting Dominic Breazeale. The same fight against Dominic Breazeale, should he have signed a 3-fight deal with DAZN. And that's a good point that I got in the email earlier from Mitch. He's not signing a contract with Hearn. He still has Al Heyman. He was signing a television deal. It was Showtime who's trying desperately to keep Wilder from going on DAZN. It was Showtime that put the pressure for Wilder to stay, whether it was directly to Wilder or through Al Heyman, his advisor. But at the end of the day, even an advisor, and I can't understand how stupid Deontay Wilder really is, how can you explain away if you just focus on one fight and you say, for this fight against the same man and presumably in the same locale, how can you justify accepting a $5 million deal or a $6 million deal versus a $20 million deal, considering that you enter the ring every time with the risk of getting stopped? It doesn't make financial sense, and it is certainly a big risk for Deontay Wilder to assumably hold out to get his $75, $80, $100 million purse just to fight Anthony Joshua. I think it's a big mistake. But in any event, it is what it is. Hey, listen, boys and girls, not sure what happened to my man Sal, but hopefully everything's okay. Hope it was just a hardware glitch. I'm sure I'll find out after the show. But I want to thank Dax Khan and Alex Propely for giving their thoughts. And I want to remind all you guys, don't forget that you can catch this show anytime you want on our YouTube channel, or you got to check out our new 24/7 television network, Billy C. Boxing. You can get all the information at Ginico, Giniko, USA.com, and sign up for free. We are now on all the major streaming platforms, and that show, that channel, doesn't just have replays of this particular show. We have our Boxing Revisited and a whole lot of stuff from the last 15 years we've been broadcasting. So you got to check that out. Hey, listen, make sure you tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.